All right, so let's take a look at all these articles about cybersecurity you've shared. Looks like we've got, well, breaches at some really big companies and even some legal stuff happening in the crypto world. Feels like every day there's something new, a new digital threat. It's kind of like, navigating a jungle
Yeah.
full of exciting new discoveries, but also potential danger around every corner. So where do you think we should start with all this? What's the most pressing thing?
I think what's really kind of hitting me is how everything's like so connected now.
Yeah.
We always think about cybersecurity as, protecting our computers, our data, but these articles I think show how it's so much deeper than that. Like these breaches at T-Mobile, AT&T, and Verizon, those are major companies, right?
Yeah.
And it shows that even our communication systems, even the infrastructure we rely on, can be vulnerable. And the fact that they're saying Salt Typhoon, a group with ties to the Chinese government, is behind this, well, it adds another layer of complexity to it all.
It's unnerving to think that even these companies, I mean, companies that we trust with so much, with our data, our communications, can be targeted like this. What's so concerning about a group like Salt Typhoon being behind it all?
Their motives are often different than your average cyber criminal. A lot of hackers are just looking to make money, right?
Yeah.
But state-sponsored groups, they might be after something else. They might be looking for sensitive information, for espionage, or to give them some sort of strategic advantage. I mean, imagine the kind of intelligence they could gather.
Yeah.
If they were able to tap into the communications of millions of people.
Yeah, it's a pretty scary thought, and they haven't even confirmed if customer data was actually compromised yet. This feels like just the beginning,
Yeah.
like the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, yeah. And that uncertainty, that's a big part of what makes these breaches so concerning. It's a good reminder that we need to really be careful about our own data, our own security, and take steps to protect ourselves. It doesn't really matter who's behind the attack. We got to be prepared.
Okay, so we have this huge threat, but then these articles also talk about, how these events, they impact real people. I mean, like this Colicom database leak. That's 200,000 people, right?
Yeah.
Their names, their phone numbers, addresses. It's all out there now. So what can people do to protect themselves, especially those who were affected by this?
Well, you have to understand how these attackers work. I mean, a data breach like this, that's often just the first step, right? They take that stolen information and then they try to exploit it. A lot of times that's through, phishing attempts, like sending emails or texts that look like they're from Colicom and trying to trick people into giving up their passwords or, their financial details. So if you're a Colicom customer, if you get any communication from them, be very careful, especially if they're asking you to click links or give up personal information.
Right. So being aware of these tactics, that's the first line of defense. It seems like common sense, but it's easy to get caught off guard.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why it's so important to stay informed and
Yeah.
share this knowledge with others. The more people understand the threats, the harder it is for these attackers to succeed.
Yeah, it's kind of like learning the rules of the jungle, right?
Mm.
The more you know about the dangers, the better prepared you are.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that analogy. And speaking of the jungle, let's talk about a story that shows just how high the stakes can be in this world of cybercrime. The sentencing of the Bitfinex hacker.
Yeah, that one's been in the news for years, it feels like. Back in 2016, I think it was, they stole 120,000 Bitcoin. That's billions of dollars today. It's mind-boggling.
What's fascinating about this case is the back and forth between the criminals and law enforcement. They use really, really sophisticated methods to try to launder that Bitcoin, creating fake identities, converting it into other cryptocurrencies, even burying hard drives with encryption keys. But in the end, they were able to recover a lot of it. It shows that even in the world of cryptocurrency, which can seem so anonymous, law enforcement is getting better at tracking these criminals down.
It's good to know that they don't always get away with it, even
Yeah.
when it's such a huge amount of money. But it also shows how much more sophisticated they're becoming.
That's right. And it just emphasizes the need for continuous innovation on security side. We can't get complacent because the bad guys, they certainly aren't.
Okay, so we've talked about these big breaches and the people behind them. Let's switch gears a bit and talk about some of the vulnerabilities that are out there, lurking in the shadows. You mentioned an article about Palo Alto Networks. They confirmed a 0-day vulnerability in their firewall system. So can you explain what exactly 0-day means and why are these so dangerous?
Okay, so imagine you build this fortress, right? It has the strongest walls and the best security system. But then someone finds a secret backdoor, one that you never even knew existed. That's basically what a 0-day vulnerability is. It's a flaw in the system that's being exploited before the developers even have a chance to fix it. And this one in Palo Alto's system, it's pretty serious. It can allow for something called remote code execution, which basically means an attacker can take control of the whole system from anywhere.
That's kind of creepy. So these 0 days, it's like you're fighting a ghost, right? You don't even know it's there until it's already too late.
That's why they're so dangerous. And this one's got a severity score of 9.3 out of 10. That's really high. Palo Alto is telling everyone to patch their systems immediately, and agencies like CISA, they're putting it on their watch list.
Okay, so if anyone out there uses Palo Alto products, definitely take care of that right away. Don't wait for that ghost to appear. Now, you also mentioned a vulnerability that could impact a lot of people, millions of WordPress websites. It's a flaw in a popular security plugin, right?
This one's like leaving your front door unlocked. It lets unauthorized users get admin access to WordPress sites, which means they could control the content, steal data, or even inject malicious code.
I can't believe something as simple as a plugin could have such a big impact.
It shows how even seemingly small things can have huge consequences in our digital lives. And WordFence, the company that discovered the flaw, they're recommending that hosting providers, they actually force update the plugin on their customer sites. That shows how serious this is.
Wow, that's a pretty drastic measure, but it does underscore the need for quick action. And this isn't just about, big companies or tech people. Anyone with a website, even a simple blog could be at risk. It's like we're all connected by this web of technology, and a weakness in one part can impact all of us.
That's a great way to put it. And it leads us to another vulnerability, one that targets devices that we don't always think about when we think about security.
Yeah.
Like old security cameras or routers. These are end-of-life products, like that GeoVision 0-day you mentioned.
So why are these end-of-life devices so vulnerable?
Think of it like an old car, one with worn-out brakes. And I'm still run, but it's much more likely to break down or get into an accident. These devices, they often stop getting security updates. So they're easy targets for hackers. They can be used to create botnets. These are like armies of infected devices, and they can be used for large scale attacks. Like DDoS attacks. Those can completely shut down websites and online services.
So even if we think these old devices are just, sitting in a closet somewhere, they could actually be helping these cyber criminals, and we wouldn't even know it.
Right. And it reminds us that cybersecurity isn't just about, protecting our new gadgets. It's about securing our whole digital world.
So what should our listeners do? Should we all be unplugging all our old devices right now?
I think the most important thing is to be aware. Be aware of the devices that are connected to your network, especially the older ones that might not be getting those security updates. And if you're not using them, well, it's always a good idea to disconnect them completely.
Okay, so we've got these 0 days, like ghosts in the machine, and unlocked doors with plug-in vulnerabilities, and then these ticking time bombs with these end-of-life devices. It's starting to feel like nowhere is safe online.
Well, it's important to remember that cybersecurity, it's a layered approach. No single thing is foolproof. But by combining different tactics and staying informed, we can definitely reduce our risk. Let's talk about another vulnerability. This one's in PostgreSQL. It's a popular database system. It might sound a bit technical, but it shows how even the most secure systems can have weaknesses.
Okay, I'm listening.
So imagine you have a roommate, right? And they're only supposed to have access to certain things, but because of a problem with your apartment security system, they can trick it into giving them full control. That's essentially what's happening with this PostgreSQL vulnerability.
Yeah.
It allows users to get more access than they're supposed to.
Mhm.
They can gain control over sensitive data, or even the whole database.
So it's like the security guard falls asleep and someone sneaks by with a fake ID, right? It
Yeah.
seems like even with all the safeguards in place, there's always a chance for human error or someone finding a clever workaround.
Yeah, exactly, and that's why it's so important to have multiple layers of security. Even if one layer fails, the others can still help to minimize the damage.
Like building a fortress with multiple walls and moats. Even if someone gets past the first line of defense, they still have to get through another one and another. Okay, so we've seen how these vulnerabilities, they can affect individual devices, even entire systems. But what about the cloud? It seems like everyone's moving their data and applications to the cloud these days. But is it really secure?
That's a great question, and it's one that's being debated all the time in the cybersecurity world. The cloud, it offers a lot of benefits. It's scalable and accessible, but it also brings new risks and challenges. Like that article you mentioned about vulnerabilities in Google's Vertex AI platform.
Right, right. What were those vulnerabilities, and what kind of impact could they have had?
They could have allowed attackers to basically take over these machine learning models that are stored in the cloud. It's especially concerning because AI models, they often have really valuable data and algorithms that could be misused. Like to create deep fakes or to develop these really sophisticated phishing attacks.
So it's not just about stealing data anymore. It's about manipulating or even weaponizing the tools that we're using to make our lives easier. That's a whole new level of threat.
Definitely, and it shows the need for a comprehensive approach to cloud security. We can't just rely on the security measures that the cloud providers give us.
Yeah.
We need to take responsibility for our own data and implement more layers of protection.
Like renting an apartment in a secure building. You still have to lock your own door and be careful who you let in. Now, I have to ask about this Fortinet 0 day, the one they're calling 40 jump higher. I mean, the name alone sounds pretty ominous.
And it is. This vulnerability, it lets attackers take control of whole networks. They basically get the keys to the kingdom. And the frustrating thing is this is a recurring problem with Fortinet. They've had other vulnerabilities that they've patched, but this new one shows that attackers they're finding ways to get around those patches and they're exploiting new weaknesses.
It's like a game of whack-a-mole. You fix one hole and another one pops up right next to it. How do we keep up with all this?
That's the big question in cybersecurity. It's an ongoing arms race, and there's no easy solution. But there are things we can do to make ourselves harder targets and to lower our risk. Let's take a look at some of those reports you shared that give us a bigger picture of the cybersecurity landscape.
Yeah. Okay. That sounds like a good place to wrap up part one of our deep dive. We've talked about a lot already, from those hidden dangers of old devices to the complexities of cloud security. I'm ready to take a step back and see the bigger picture.
Yeah, I think you'll find these reports offer some valuable insights into the trends and challenges we're facing in this ever-changing digital world.
We'll be back in a moment to continue our cybersecurity deep dive.
Welcome back. Before we get into those reports, what's really stood out to you so far?
Honestly, I'm kind of overwhelmed by how many threats there are out there. It's like trying to plug holes in a leaky boat while you're still at sea. But I'm also really interested in how we can go beyond just reacting to these threats. How can we be more proactive? That's why this NIST report on hardware security really caught my eye. We talk a lot about software vulnerabilities, but the hardware is important too, right?
Absolutely, yeah. It's like building a house. You can have the strongest walls, the most secure locks, but if the foundation is weak, the whole thing is vulnerable. NIST, they've identified 98 different ways that hardware can fail, and those failures can lead to vulnerabilities, which is pretty shocking when you think about it.
98. Wow, that's a lot. What are some examples of these hardware failures?
Well, they're all over the place, which makes them hard to deal with. Some are related to the design and manufacturing process, things like like improper access control. So some components are just left unprotected,
Sure.
or coding standard deficiencies, where the software that's built into the hardware itself, it has flaws. And then there are lifecycle management errors. Those could be anything from mishandling the devices during shipping, or storage, or even failing to properly decommission them when they're no longer being used.
So it's not just about the hardware, it's how it's handled throughout its entire life, it seems like. Like there are a lot of things that can go wrong.
That's right. And the consequences can be just as bad as software vulnerabilities. I mean, we're talking about attackers being able to bypass security measures, accessing sensitive data, even disrupting critical systems. Imagine a vulnerability in a medical device that could be exploited. That could really compromise patient safety.
Yeah, that's a scary thought. It really shows that cybersecurity isn't just about protecting our data. It's about protecting people, and it makes you think about all the devices we use every day without even thinking about the risks.
It's easy to take technology for granted, but this report it's a reminder that even the most advanced hardware can have weaknesses,
Oh.
and those weaknesses can be exploited.
So we've got this underlying vulnerability in the hardware itself, and then we have all the software vulnerabilities and human errors on top of that. It's like a cake made of risk.
That's a good way to put it. And this Black Duck report you shared, the one about vulnerabilities in high risk sectors,
Yeah.
that just adds another layer to the cake. What really stood out to you about this one? I was really surprised to see that finance and insurance, those industries, seem to have the most vulnerabilities. You'd think they'd be the most secure, given all the sensitive data they handle, right? What's going on there? It's complicated, but part of it has to do with the systems they're using. A lot of financial institutions still rely on these legacy systems. They can be outdated, hard to patch, which makes them prime targets. And then you have the fact that the financial sector is always innovating, always adopting new technology, and sometimes that can happen faster than the security can keep up.
So it's like they're building a high-tech fortress, but the foundation is ancient.
Exactly, and that creates a lot of gaps for attackers to exploit. The report also found that some of these vulnerabilities can take months to fix, which is a bit worrying given how quickly things change in cybersecurity.
Months. That's like a lifetime online. Why does it take so long to patch these vulnerabilities?
It's not always an easy fix. Some of them need complex patches,
Right.
and those need to be tested very carefully before they can be rolled out.
Yeah.
And sometimes organizations they're hesitant to implement these patches. They worry about disrupting their systems or causing compatibility problems. It's a tough balancing act.
So it's a mix of technical issues and maybe some organizational inertia and even a little bit of fear of the unknown, maybe.
Yeah.
It's a good reminder that security isn't just about technology. It's about people and processes.
I agree, and that brings us to another report that shows the human side of cybersecurity, the Sentinel-Alone report on ransomware groups using cloud services for their attacks. What are your thoughts on that trend?
It's frightening how adaptable these these criminals are. They're using the very tools that are supposed to make us more secure and efficient against us. What's really disturbing is how they're using cloud services for data exfiltration. It's like they're setting up shop right under our noses.
They're turning our strengths into weaknesses.
Yeah.
The cloud it's incredibly convenient and it's scalable, but it also creates new ways for criminals to attack. They're exploiting these misconfigurations in cloud security settings. They're stealing credentials. They're even using legitimate cloud tools for malicious purposes. The report it mentions groups like Beyondly and Reseta. They're using tools like Azure Storage Explorer. It's normally used by system administrators, but they're using it to steal data.
It's like they're playing by our rules, but with a completely different playbook. How do we even defend against that?
It takes a multi-pronged approach. We need to make cloud security configuration stronger, implement strong access controls, and educate users about the risks. But maybe even more importantly, we need to change our mindset. We can't just trust the cloud. We need to actively secure it.
So it's about taking responsibility, owning our cloud security, just like we would with any other part of our digital lives. It's a good reminder that convenience shouldn't come at the cost of security, but with so many threats out there, it can be hard to know where to even begin.
I know what you mean. It can feel like you're trying to drink from a fire hose, but remember, every step we take, it makes a difference. What's one thing you've learned so far that you might be able to apply in your own life?
Well, the whole discussion about those end of life devices that really got to me. I've got this box of old gadgets in my closet, stuff I haven't touched in years. I'm definitely gonna go through it and make sure everything is either securely erased or disconnected.
That's a great first step, and it's something everyone can do. It doesn't matter how tech savvy you are.
It's a small win in the fight against cybercrime, but everyone counts. So
Exactly. And I think that leads us perfectly into the final part of our deep dive. We can explore some more practical tips and strategies, to help us navigate this complicated cybersecurity landscape.
I'm ready. Let's wrap things up and figure out how we can take all this information and make it into something that we can actually use.
Okay, well, we've made it through this jungle of cybersecurity threats, and I gotta say, it's been a lot. I'm feeling informed, but also a little scared, to be honest.
Yes.
So what can we actually do with all this? How can we actually feel more secure?
Well, the good news is awareness is a big part of it.
Yeah.
We've talked about some key things that can help you take action.
Right. Right. So what's the first thing our listeners should keep in mind as they try to make sense of all this crazy cybersecurity world?
I think it's remembering that it's always changing.
Yeah.
That the threats they change all the time. What worked yesterday, it might not work tomorrow.
Oh.
So staying informed, that's crucial. It's like trying to learn a new language, but the dictionary keeps getting updated with new words and new rules.
That's a great analogy. And just like learning a language, it takes practice. It takes dedication to really get it.
So staying informed, that's step one. But we've also seen that no system is perfect, right?
Exactly. We need to change how we think about it.
Mm-hmm.
We need to move from prevention to resilience. It's not about if an attack will happen, but when it will happen, and when it does, are we ready?
So it's less about building an impenetrable fortress and more about having a good plan, a good emergency plan.
Exactly. That means things like incident response plans and data backup and recovery, and regular security audits.
I'm sensing a theme here. Being proactive, planning ahead. That's really important. We can't just, sit back and hope for the best. We need to anticipate these threats and be ready for them.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And don't forget about the human element. People are often the weakest link. We make mistakes. We fall for phishing scams. We forget to update our passwords.
We're all human, right? So how do we address that? The human factor.
Education and awareness, those are key. We need to create a culture of security, where everyone understands the risks and they take responsibility for protecting their data.
So it's not just about, having the latest software. It's about having that security mindset, in every part of our digital lives.
You got it. And that brings us back to that question we asked earlier. Based on everything we've talked about, what's one thing you can do like today to be more secure?
I think I'm gonna make sure I have two-factor authentication set up on all my important accounts. It's such a simple thing, but it really adds a lot of protection.
That's a great choice. And there are so many other easy things people can do. Like using strong passwords, different passwords for each account, being careful about phishing emails, keeping your software updated. Those are all small things that can really make a big difference.
It's about making security a habit. It's about making it part of our daily lives, not just a a chore.
Exactly. And remember, cybersecurity, it's a journey, not a destination. The threats, they're always changing, so we got to be ready to adapt.
Well, this deep dive has definitely given me a lot to think about. I'm feeling more informed, but also more ready to take action. To protect myself and my data.
I'm glad to hear that. Remember, knowledge is power.
Yeah.
And by sharing that knowledge, well, we can make the digital world safer for everyone.
Thanks for guiding me through this cybersecurity jungle. I feel like I have a much better map now.
It was my pleasure. And remember, stay curious, stay informed,
Mm-hmm.
and stay safe out there.
And to our listener, we hope this deep dive has given you the knowledge and the motivation to navigate the ever-changing world of cybersecurity. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.